I think my balls just shrunk. Estrogen in my water. I guess I can't drink water anymore. Can't drink tap water. There's fluoride in that. Can't go to any water sources. They're all polluted. I guess I just not drink water anymore. That sucks. So John Foreman, I believe, is the person I should thank for submitting this via ScottTheTruckDriver.com, and it's from a channel called Reluctant Preppers, and it is, of course, we've got to stop eating what they're feeding us, but with Dr. Jay Nielsen MD. This is the first time I've encountered Dr. Jay Nielsen. I've watched the whole video. The link to this video is in the description. And the first thing I want to comment on is Stevia. He takes a big shit on Stevia.
I thought I was going to have to come to the office and cap myself. And I'm laying in bed going, what's gone wrong with my life? And I went, it's the Arthroban. And so I went off of it, and the next morning I could pee, and I thought, you know, I probably ought to get a PSA. I'm 65 years old. My last PSA was 2. It was 39. And I went, oh no, I've given myself prostatic cancer. So I've scheduled with the urologist to go have a prostatic biopsy, and I'm laying in bed now worried about that. And I went, oh, wait a second. I went off the Stevia. Maybe I ought to recheck my PSA. And 12 days later, it was 8. And I went, oh, I've learned something. Stevia elevates PSA. And I'd read Bruce, what's his name's book, The Stevia Deception, brilliant book. But it doesn't have any clinical information in it. So I went out and thought about all the patients in my practice who had elevating PSAs. And I called 10 of them up and I said, get off the Stevia, wait 2 weeks and give me a PSA.
Okay.
I know I have 47 people in my series that have got their PSA back to normal by getting rid of Stevia.
Yeah, because we've been hearing Stevia's got all kinds of benefits for
Lyme.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And it is a biofilm splitter.
Okay.
While you die from prostatic cancer and all those things. But, you know, what the heck. But nobody's asking those questions. Everybody just is going.
He takes a shit on a lot of foods, a lot of ways we cook, a lot of things that we eat. You know, if by the end of this video, you pretty much can't do anything. You can't eat anything. Unless you do exactly what he's doing. And then you're good. Which is bullshit. I don't believe in that. Alright? I don't even say that what I'm doing is optimal. I'm not even going to take a shit on everything that doesn't align with my way of eating. I always give you guys alternatives. If you're going to, for example, eat the standard American diet, here's how you would be as healthy as you can be eating the standard American diet, in which case that would be a whole lot of intermittent fasting, and you're going to deal with a lot of hunger issues. You know, that's an example of how I would tell you to adapt to your situation, because you can't put everyone into one basket. You can't say, I got to eat this fucking way. So anyway, he talks about Stevia and it causing an elevation in a biomarker for prostate cancer. Yet I look into it and there's basically other things that can elevate that in your blood. that don't necessarily mean you have prostate cancer. But in any case, he claims that he has proven through himself that he was able to elevate this marker in your blood for prostate cancer and lower it by not consuming stevia anymore. I myself consume stevia mixed with erythritol, so I'm double whammy in there. And I don't really think I'm going to move the needle. Not to mention I'm not providing an environment which cancer will flourish in, because I'm keto, because I fast, because I do long fasts. Even if I do have the cancer, I probably am not going to grow it to any appreciable level until my 70s and 80s, at which point I'm going to die of something anyway. So be it, as long as I don't spend 20 years in the fucking medical treadmill, which is I want to avoid. I don't want to be in that treadmill, and I'm going to do everything in my power to not do that. So, he mentions stevia and, how it's bad, but this isn't just it. This whole fucking video is riddled with him talking shit about just about every fucking food that you could possibly eat, including keto foods. He does say some things that I agree with. I agree with his concepts of being more like our Paleolithic versions of us, our genetics. He talks about eating by blood type. I don't know if that's a thing. I haven't seen a lot of that research. But I will say that if you, in general, ate like your ancestors 10,000 years ago, which is pre-agriculture, by the way, ate, then you are likely going to achieve a good health span as far as metabolic diseases go, and so on and so forth. Now, they didn't eat perfect back then. They had holes in their diets. That's product of your environment. Our food environment is littered with foods that all have some negative aspects to them and all have some positive aspects to them. It's a question of getting rid of the foods that are causing us the most metabolic damage, the most problems, the most issues. And as we eliminate those foods, we will improve our health span. But there comes a point where you are just so into this that you cross the line into trying to achieve optimal health. And you start eliminating vast sections of your diet, which otherwise gets you 70 to 80% of the way through your life just fine. And you restrict these other things that may buy you an extra year on the end, or an extra 2 years at the end of your health span. I can't guarantee that you won't experience, doing what I'm doing, some kind of disease, some kind of injury, some kind of thing that will put you into that medical treadmill. However, I will say that if you're doing these things I talk about, you will not end up in that 10 to 20 year end of life, medicated, spending all your money, going to doctors, losing limbs, having multiple grabbers. You probably will avoid most of that if you just go keto, you do intermittent fasting, you avoid processed foods, you avoid sugar, you avoid carbohydrates, particularly grain-based carbohydrates, or fast, or high glycemic carbs with low fiber. There's different levels that you can go to. I myself am choosing to keep my grams of carbohydrates under 50 grams. There's a little bit of itty bitty bit of sugar in that mix. There's a little itty bitty bit of nuts and seeds and, of lactose because I have yogurt, but overall the rest of my carbs come from the meats. There's a little bit in meat, believe it or not. And of course, leafy greens and vegetables, and a little bit of berries occasionally as well. And of course, 100% unsweetened chocolate. So those are the sources for me, and that's kind of the rhythm I fell in. Eggs are a big staple. Steaks, big fatty cuts of steaks, chicken wings. These are all things I do now. And if I start to worry about every little thing. And I've done a lot. You know, I've eliminated a lot of vegetable oils by not eating out as often. I'm mindful of vegetable oils because I know that that causes inflammation. I know that we don't digest them properly, and I know that they're not natural ways of us getting fat in our diet. So I try to avoid that as much as possible, but there's occasional keto junk foods that do have some kind of vegetable oil. I don't eat a lot of soy, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm not a fan of soy, never have been. So a lot of the things he touches on in this video, which is linked in the description, I kind of agree with some of what he says, but he has gone just too deep into the rabbit hole, and I don't advise that. You're going to stress yourself out. You're going to make yourself miserable as fuck. All right? So before you go and give up Stevia, which is 10 times healthier for you than sugar, by far, you can have a lot of Stevia without getting the metabolic disease. And he does also say in the video that insulin rises. Not every sweetener, this has been proven scientifically. There are sweeteners such as stevia and erythritol having the lowest impact on insulin, that you can tell when your insulin gets popped by an artificial sweetener, because you will be hungry within a couple hours. And it will make you hungrier. I have found stevia mixed with erythritol through Splenda Naturals as a brand. New Stevia is another brand. Truvia is probably my least favorite brand. None of those cause me to hunger issues. None of those have moved the needle. I've used them liberally during, fat fasts and not had a problem. So I know that I'm not getting an insulin response from those sweeteners. And they've been tested. Others have tested their insulin and their blood glucose and all of that and have found no issues. There's been scientific studies that have tested the insulin response of these sweeteners, and those have shown that there's certain sweeteners that don't do shit to you at all. As far as the prostate cancer thing, there are many things that can elevate that marker in your blood that you get when you do your blood test, when you get your yearly checkup, that have absolutely nothing to do. You could just have an inflamed prostate and get those kinds of numbers. So maybe, somehow stevia is causing some inflammation, but not necessarily cancer. But he immediately leaps to the cancer. It's going to be cancer, getting a biopsy, blah, blah, blah. Be cautious, of course. I could be wrong on this, but I have not seen an association or a scientific study, and I believe me, there's probably plenty of studies on stevia. It is something that people can sell, so they're going to want science to back it up. I have not seen any studies that say stevia can cause prostate cancer. And that's the problem I have with this guy, is he's making these leaps without 100% scientific backing. And, a lot of it's his opinion, and he is a doctor, and a lot of doctors think they're right about everything, and they're not. And everyone should say, I'm not an expert, I'm a fucking asshole, and just share what they've experienced, or the clinical data they've seen, or the scientific data that they've seen, and share their opinion, but present it as that's your opinion. And I do that. I let you all know that these are my opinions. Everybody that talks on the topic should be like that. There's no one person that knows everything about fucking everything. So I do think that this video was interesting. It did cite a lot of fucking books and things that I want to look into and read, and some documentaries were mentioned that I'm interested in finding out. So in the future, I will probably use it as a reference for more research to dig into. But overall, I gotta say, I'm not a fan of this guy. I'm just not.
Animal protein safely is in a crock pot.
I see. Low temperature. Slow cook.
All the meat I eat, I slow cook.
I gotcha.
Everything, as long as there's steam under the lid, then by definition it's 212 degrees.
True.
And I'm making that meatloaf or those brats or whatever, and I'm pouring off the fat that is liquefied and making sure there's enough water in there and moving the brats around so the hot ones go where the cold ones were until it's all cooked over 8 to 14 hours, depending on what I'm making, always on low, never medium or high in a crock pot. And then when it's done, I'm putting it out on the counter till it gets almost room temperature, putting it in the refrigerator because I want to get it stiff. Now I've got 3 things I can wrap it in. Aluminum foil, poisonous. Saran wrap, estrogen wrap.
Estrogen wrap,
Poisonous
okay.
wrap, right? Step right there.
Okay.
Saran wrap, just thicker layer of saran wrap, right? So estrogen wrap, okay? Or wax paper, which is neutral. And so all my food gets wrapped in wax paper, closed with some masking tape, shoved into those orange newspaper bags so I don't get freezer burn. Keep them.
So Dr. Jay Nielsen is definitely orthorexic, in my opinion. And this is a danger that as you get into researching what you can and can't eat, what's good for you, what's bad for you, what's healthy, what's unhealthy, this is where the danger of diving too far into the optimal health side of the equation can take you. And, you know, as you heard there, he is afraid of plastic bottles, or estrogen water and shit. You know, he won't wrap shit in aluminum foil. You know, he wraps it in wax paper. He won't cook his meat. He wants to boil it in a crock pot all the time. You know, these are things that in today's society, in today's food environment, are very difficult to sustain or impossible in most cases unless you just fast your way through all the times when you can't do that shit. Not to mention you're avoiding a large portion of foods from this diet, you know, our diet that are available, especially here in the United States. He is, throughout this video, he is demonized every single fucking food I can think of. You know, I would not be necessarily... Now, can these have a health impact? Absolutely. Do they have one that is significant enough, as in it will reduce your health span by like 5 to 10 years and so on and so forth? I think he's at a point where he's just so afraid of his mortality that, you know, he is delved into the optimal health rabbit hole and become orthorexic, as in there's a lot of foods. Orthorexia is a fear of not eating healthy, and you know, you will eliminate vast majority of food that's available to you in today's society because it's bad for you in one respect or another. And bottom line, every fucking food in the supermarket has a negative quality to it. And when it comes down to it, we're choosing between, you know, what stuff that's going to kill us, you know, 10 to 20 years earlier, aka carbs, sugar, processed foods, that kind of stuff, and stuff that may shave a year or two off the end of our life for other, you know, diseases, deficiencies, or that may make, you know, lower our testosterone and have these other effects that probably won't require massive amounts of medication or anything like that, and won't put us in that hamster wheel of metabolic disease. The biggest problem we have is metabolic disease, not all of, you know, not how much fucking plastic and BPAs I'm getting when I drink out of a fucking bottle of water. I'd say maybe that's gonna, you know, come into play towards the end, around 1 or 2 years before I'm gonna die anyway. And to me, that's a diminishing return and not worth the stress involved for eliminating all of this shit out of your diet. It's also, I don't want to boil all my food. I don't want to crock pot everything. Yes, occasionally a crock pot meal is nice. It tastes good, it's full of flavor, it's great. But who the fuck has 14 hours a day to prepare your food? And then put it in the fridge and then heat it up. And fuck that. Throw some eggs on the fucking frying pan, put some butter in that motherfucker and eat. Instead of spending all day preparing fucking meats and fats. I do agree with a lot of the things he is saying in regards, but he has, in my opinion, so far of watching this video, stepped over the bounds of, what's good for us, what is tolerable for us and what is unhealthy for us. And he has blurred that line to the point where if you listen to what he's saying, you probably won't eat hardly fucking anything. And, we got to eat. You can't sustain fasting forever. But he does have a lot of good, valid points, I'm finding. So I'm on the fence with this guy so far. Well, let's keep watching.
They got educated up in the 70s about we got to go polyunsaturated. So canola was a great thing, and corn oil was a great thing.
Corn oil was a great thing.
I mean, William Shatner promised that it was a great thing on the promise of margarine ads and that kind of thing.
Well, and how do you make margarine?
No idea.
You take corn oil or vegetable oil and you irradiate it, and it makes more bonds that make it thicker.
Is that hydrogenated or whatever?
Yeah, hydrogenated. You just hydrogenate it by hitting it with radiation. We invented that in World War II, oleomargarine. That's it. It used to be called, it used to come white, and we added orange stuff to it to make it the right color. Butter is the right product, but now you can't throw it in a pan, heat it to 500 degrees.
Okay.
You really, frying and grilling and broiling and baking just don't work. I mean, you can bake, but you have to bake really slowly to the point where you might as well get back over to your crock pot because you're just going to have dry meat. Smoking works.
Yep.
Smoking's got the right temperatures. And so, what a mess. The proteins are.
So there you have it. You can't fucking cook anything. You gotta boil it. It's talking about eating hard-boiled eggs and shit. And fucking... you can't. And you know what? Since we've been able to make fire, that's kind of not... We weren't boiling everything. In fact, we probably just threw it on a stick and put it over the fire, if you want to go back to the day. So he's being really, hardcore, in my opinion, on what you can and can't do. And it's very regimented, very strict. And nobody's gonna fucking stick to that. I can't even get motherfuckers to drop cheat days, all right? And you want to do this? It's not realistic. We're trying to, the things that I've been saying and preaching are achievable and sustainable in this current food environment. And I'm not saying it's easy. Keto is difficult because of the social aspects, of the food environment aspects, of having to be on guard for a lot. And that is a little bit restrictive to some people. But if you take it to the next level, to the orthorexic fucking level of being afraid of just about everything that could be bad for you, a lot of this isn't based in science. A lot of these things that I'm hearing in this video are opinion, without the backup of a lot of studies and so on and so forth. A lot of the things he references are books, which tend to be on the bias side, but can lead you down a path of research into the science of it. And a lot of the things he's quoted in this thing are documentaries, which can also be biased and not tell you a complete story. I'm interested in a lot of the books he mentions in this, and I'm going to look into some of them. I'm interested in some of the documentaries he mentions as well. But these are not science. These will make you afraid of things. If you watch a documentary on Netflix or fucking Amazon, it's going to make you afraid. It's going to make you afraid of huge industries, of food. And while there are unhealthful aspects to a lot of food that comes out of the food industry, of big agriculture and processed foods and all of that, you can navigate that environment to get most of the way there in health-wise. At the very least, taking you out of that metabolic disease of being obese, of having to go to the doctor and get medicated down for heart disease, for fucking diabetes. These are the main things that are fucking us right now. These are the things that are killing us. If you look around, you see fatty liver all over the place. You see the belly. Even on people that are probably of normal BMI, still have a fatty liver, still have visceral fat, still have insulin resistance, are still ravenously hungry all the time. So be careful. Don't let yourself be driven to this next level of orthorexia that will cause you to basically not want to eat just about anything. And I know somebody in my personal life that I'm not a fan of that went down this road, and he would not eat shit. You know, like if you look in the fridge, there was hardly any food. There was no variety, no nothing. You know, he even was doing keto at one point. He was doing the fermented food thing. He was obsessed with optimal health. Now, to be fair, he had Crohn's disease, and he was trying to treat it naturally, and he was experimenting a lot. But ultimately, you can get most of the way there just by going keto, by intermittent fasting. If you're really damaged, doing long fasts to help heal and detoxify and get rid of inflammation and all of these things that they'll treat, autoimmune and, of course, allergies. You know, there's things that we can do that don't involve this level of micromanaging your diet. And when you start stressing yourself out about just about everything, like whether or not you're getting too much estrogen in your bottled water, which could lead to you paying exorbitant prices for, water that's in glass bottles, which is very hard to find in today's society. Plastic is used heavily in just about every food situation you can think of. In the supermarkets, it's used in all the foods in restaurants. So basically, this guy says you got to live in your fucking cave, not cook your food. You got to boil it, don't overheat it because you might be fucking yourself that way. You can't look at it this way. This will drive you into a fucking rabbit hole of stress, anxiety, misery, and ultimately, at some point in your life, you're going to say, fuck that shit. I'm going back to eating whatever the fuck I want, and I don't care anymore. And there's a middle ground. And that's the place I want to be, is the middle ground. Instead of worrying about optimal health. And, the same thing with the supplement crowds. I'm going to take this supplement and that supplement and this supplement. No, not me. Fuck that shit. I don't want to spend the extra money for the diminishing returns. And half of them supplements just get pissed out and don't even get absorbed by your body. You just got to be careful when you start down this path. And I've been sucked down the path of optimal health a couple times. And then I wake up and I realize, look, is it really worth this level of fucking stress when I know if I do these basic things that my health will be a hell of a lot better than it was? And that's all I ever wanted, was to just be a lot healthier than I was, and I've achieved that. Right now I'm refining things, I'm experimenting with the things I do, but I'm still staying in a wheelhouse, an area that I'm comfortable in with diet. And if you listen to this motherfucker, you won't find that comfort. You'll find fear, you'll find anxiety, you'll find stress, you'll find failure because you won't be able to sustain a lot of the things he describes in this video. So I've got to say, although I do agree with some of the things he says, I'm so far still not a fan. I probably would not use him as an endpoint. He's not going to be someone I follow regularly. I am going to look more into it. Maybe this video is kind of just one context. Maybe he does have some good knowledge, but this is an example of why you can't take one particular person, not even myself, and judge all of your decisions off that one person. You need to get a more macro view of health from more than one source. If you just go to one source and you follow that to a T, you're really not doing yourself any favors, because you're missing out on little nuggets of knowledge that each individual source of knowledge for health has to offer. Now, a lot of them, they get things wrong. I get things wrong sometimes. If you go back to my earlier videos, I'm sure you'll find plenty of shit that I got wrong over the years. But currently, you know, it's an evolutionary process. It's why I have this whole journey on my channel from start to finish that will show you the pitfalls, the places I was wrong, the places I was right. And, you know, obviously you want to go with my current knowledge over my previous knowledge, but it is there to kind of show you where I've evolved from and the knowledge base that I've since come up with, you know, and the new theories I test and the new things that I find work and the new things I find that don't work.
Look at the low carbohydrate diet. It has no calorie restrictions or amounts of food.
True.
And people lose weight like crazy on it because the only thing that's changing is their insulin is going down. And these people can eat, I can eat voluminous amounts of food and lose weight on a low carb diet.
Yep.
It's not about calories. Calories is stupid. Calories is people on TV trying to get you to count something because they want you to pay them to do the counting for them. It's just, you know, the low carbohydrate diet has been well documented to be the right diet for white people. Okay, the minute that you change major genomic structure, it's different. The Orientals have had rice forever. That is not acting like a carbohydrate to them. They don't tolerate soy as much as we're told that they do. They really, that's a really urban legend given to us by the people who wanted us to eat soy. That's in the whole soy story. But they really tolerate rice. Okay, and of course we killed entire populations with corn. Okay, corn's a terrible food. The Mayans and the Incans died because the only food they had was corn. I mean, you look at that whole area where those pyramids are at and all of that's happening.
Well, you know, like I said, this guy's just a little too much on the fringe of knowledge for me. I do agree with the carbohydrate statement. I do agree with the genetic alignment. You know, I don't know if I would put it, he's a little bit not politically correct when he's talking about the way he addresses races, but, you know, I don't think he's racist. I just think he's just not politically correct when he talks about things. However, I will say that, yes, our genetics do play a role in our tolerance of certain carbohydrates, in our tolerance of certain foods. However, today's processed food environment has completely fucked all of that up. So, you know, you may be able to tolerate certain carbohydrates from the region where you are genetically from. I myself am half Russian, and then I got some Irish and some German and some Spanish and some Native American. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly, but you know, if I had to gauge, I'd say anywhere in the temperate climate where it gets cold and you have cold winters devoid of carbohydrates, or maybe even during the summer not having a wide variety, definitely low in the fruit department for my genetics. So the keto diet is definitely something that fits my genetic profile. And I've always said that if you eat based on you 10,000 years ago, wherever your climate was, your environment, that is what you were genetically adapted to. So there's that. But he kind of goes too far, I think. So I think I'm going to have to give him kind of a thumbs down. So thank you, John Foreman, for submitting this video. I did find it interesting. I did like some of the books and documentaries he mentioned, but overall I gotta say that you know, I'm not a fan of this guy, just because he's interspersed some good knowledge with some kind of orthorexic behavior. You know, he's a little worse than Dr. Mercola in this optimal health stuff. He is very fear-mongering, I think, of a lot of different things. He's basically regurgitated every, you know, bad book or bad documentary on a specific food that's bad. He does rip on vegans quite a bit. He does rip on a whole bunch of, you know, other misconceptions of diet that I probably agree with. I just think he's taking it too far beyond the realm of science and too deep into the realm of opinion. Granted, he does see patients, he does have clinical data, but that doesn't, not all doctors, in my opinion, are, just because they're a doctor doesn't mean they're right. He has a certain level of bias. He's chosen to do all of these things for his health. He has probably gotten to his health span to increase, especially if he's following keto and doing intermittent fasting. He did mention that he was doing alternate day diet style fasting, which is every other day, restricting your calories under 600. You can get away with 800 if you're ketogenic on alternate days, which is what I'm currently doing, by the way. I'm currently, for the next 2 weeks, testing alternate day fat fasting. So there's that. So if you found this review or video or reaction video, or whatever the fuck you would classify this particular video as informative, please like and subscribe for more shit. And remember, I'm not a fucking expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. Also, if you found this video helpful and would like to leave a tip in the virtual tip jar on ScottTheTruckDriver.com, the link is in the description, along with some affiliate links on my recommended product page on ScottTheTruckDriver.com as well. Please go check out my website, see what's there that can help you along in your journey. Of course, all these videos are getting posted there in the blog section now. So if you want to keep up, you can always just go to ScottTheTruckDriver.com and take a look at what's what. Also, I have a podcast available. There's 4 episodes. They're about 2 hours each, various topics listed. They're $2 a download. I encourage you to listen to that for if you need more content, if a video every day, which is what I'm currently trying to do, isn't enough. So thank you guys for all you've done. Thank you to my contributors through ScottTheTruckDriver.com. Thank you for those of you who contribute during the live streams through Super Chat. And thank you to all of those of you who have remained on Patreon. And, whichever way you want to help is, fine. It's great. I'm happy. And even if the only way you're helping is just watching, liking, subscribing, and sharing my videos, that is also greatly appreciated as well. So thank all of you motherfuckers. Thank you. And shit. So, have a nice motherfucking day. And shit.